Hello, friends. Thank you for joining me today. I want to discuss a very important, often unrecognized topic in the healthcare industry, in nutrition and fitness, and in wellness as a whole. And this is the topic of diet culture and how it may be contributing to disordered eating or eating disorder behavior. So I just want you to kind of think about a couple questions in the back of your mind as I go through the topic of today's videos. The first, how do you know when you cross that line between caring for your health and obsessing over it? The second, when does nourishing your body with nurturing foods turn into a disordered relationship with nutrition and fitness? And three, how do habits for health that focus on diet and exercise go from accentuating your life and making you feel good to ruling your life, making you feel like you have to follow these regimens or rituals in order to feel okay or to protect your health, rather than doing things for the joy of it or for feeling better so you can participate in your life? You might actually feel a slave to them. So many have heard of the concept orthorexia, and that's where someone has a preoccupation or almost an obsession with eating a diet in a perfect way, and they have to be healthy foods. But what happens when these concepts have been embraced by society so much that this tormenting preoccupation is actually normalized and even exalted? And this is one of the hardest things for me to watch right now. I think as a consumer, as a client, as a patient, it's getting very hard to decipher between the real issues of diet culture and exalting disordered eating patterns in the name of health, and when we can use food as medicine and nourishment, and how to optimize our brain function and balance our body. It's an inevitable fact at this point that diet culture's deceitful promises have picked up momentum and they're in medicine at this point and in healthcare. So I want to help you understand this difference between nurturing and nourishing your body with nutrients and being stuck in a downward spiral of chasing after perfect food combinations and thinking that the right food restriction or finding the perfect diet is going to solve all of your health problems, because there's dangers to that. So I want to go through why we should really be aware of what diet culture is, what harms it does, how this is embedded in disordered eating patterns, and then we're going to talk a little bit about diet culture so you can recognize it and be empowered to actually fight against it and take your power back to how you want to nourish your body. So it's kind of a controversial topic because many people feel that, we shouldn't say that eating healthy is bad, and, what's happened with the food industry, and there's all this processed food that really can cause some harm in the body or has been associated with it. And there's a truth to this as well. But let me talk a little bit about the harms related to diet culture and eating disorders. Okay, so let's think about these questions in the back of your head. There's usually a line, right, between moderation and health, and crossing that line into borderline obsession, and then not caring at all, which is everybody's prerogative. Like, health is not a moral issue, and I think we need to be aware of that as well. So the first thing is that eating disorders and orthorexia practices are becoming mainstream and accepted through diet culture. So kind of already talked about that. But the problem with this is that this can cause psychological and physical harm, the perpetuation of orthorexia, and people not recognizing when they do need help and when this disordered eating pattern is actually affecting their daily function, turning into almost health anxiety. If you want to check out health anxiety, I just did a video on that and it's on my YouTube channel. And as an aside, all of the references and resources to this video will be in the accompanying article link that'll be in the video description. So no worries if you missed something and you want to go back and check it later on, there'll be reference links in that article. So make sure you check that out. So the first reason is people might not recognize when they have an eating disorder if it's normalized. The second thing is eating disorders are more pervasive and often more hidden than you think. In fact, less than 6% of people with an actual eating disorder are medically diagnosed as underweight. So it happens to people with all body sizes, all shapes, all ethnicities, all races, all socioeconomic statuses. In fact, 9% of the US population and probably more will have an eating disorder sometime in their lifetime. And this is separate from disordered eating. Okay, so disordered eating is when the decisions about what to eat and what to put on your plate creates almost this angst and suffering trying to do it right. And it's still not enough to be diagnosed as an eating disorder, but someone can struggle and suffer in silence for years, battling their inner demons about food and never get a real peace and serenity around how to nourish their body. So we have that it's normalized, we have it's pervasive and often hidden, and we also have that it can be a very dysfunctional coping mechanisms. So there's been a rise in eating disorders with the current events from 2020 and on. And some experts believe that people are turning to food or anything external that they can control to feel a sense of coping or a sense of control with the outside world that they can't. Now, focusing on the external to silence internal chaos is a dangerous and unsuccessful precedent. It is understandable with a trauma, but it never gets to the root cause of the issue. And historically, it's been associated with anorexia, but they're also finding there's some underlying issues emotionally with other eating disorders. And I'm going to get into eating disorders in another video because there's so many multifactorial relationships and factors related to if someone's going to get an eating disorder, from genetics to environment to brain processing issues to microbiome. That's all important. But one of the main emotional coping mechanisms that a lot of people who are predispositioned will turn to already, and then if society feeds this, is trying to control their food. So we have to be very careful at this time. What I think us as practitioners and as a community in wellness are putting out there is what's acceptable, normalized relationships with our food and with others. And especially with the rise in mental health issues today. The last reason, besides that they're hidden, that they're pervasive, that they're a dysfunctional coping mechanism that doesn't get to the root cause of the trauma, and the last reason is they have serious mental health consequences. Eating disorders behind opiate addiction is the deadliest mental health disorder. So I know this topic is not very cheery, but it is very important for us to address this because full recovery can be possible. I think that right now there's a rise in anxiety, and I think maybe wellness community can be contributing to this because of this demonizing of carbohydrates, these intermittent fasting of people who aren't really up to par to do it yet, and they're creating blood sugar swings and hormonal imbalances that are impacting mood and creating what we call false anxiety, where if you remove the biological issue, the anxiety symptoms go away. It isn't a true brain disorder. So we need to be aware of that. And I also have a video on false anxiety if you're interested in that. Of course I do, right? So those are the reasons we want to pay attention to diet culture. Let me go now into a little bit of the diet culture harms and exactly what diet culture is. So here are some diet culture ideas. So if you see any of these ideas in a post or a health blog or something like that, you might want to put up your alarm bells and say, I wonder if this is diet culture. So diet culture advocates that the size of one's body determines their health outcomes. It reinforces society's obsession with weight loss. It elevates thinness as a privilege. It perpetuates body stigma and poor healthcare delivery. It disproportionately negatively impacts minority populations. It contributes to a dysfunctional relationship with food, eating behaviors, and eating disorders. It normalizes extreme food elimination and restrictions, and it harms everybody of all body sizes because it's really impossible to live up to this societal image of a perfect body image, and a perfect food practice. So not only does diet culture encourage body discrimination, stigma, body image issues, it also causes and produces substandard medical care for a large majority of the population, which creates a vicious cycle because many of the people with larger body sizes avoid seeking healthcare due to the prejudice and fear of judgment of their body by their physician. And this has been around and been talked about. I found an article in their 2010, where they said that stigmatization of, quote, obese individuals threatens health, generates health disparities, and interferes with effective management. I am not denying that weight can be linked to some diseases, maybe contribute to some, but I'm also saying that there is an extreme danger in confusing causation and association with body size and studies to the disease. So there's a difference between someone having a characteristic, and you have to think most of our population is larger body sizes. So there's going to be a more statistical link to someone having a larger body size and a disease risk. But you do not have to be a larger body size to contract the disease. So it's not necessary for most disease, I'd say 90%, 99% of the diseases out there, that being overweight is the main reason why someone would get a disease. So you can be healthy metabolically with a larger body size, and we need to consider this when we look at different people. And even if it was true that we had to get people in smaller bodies to help make people healthier, the way that we're doing it is causing more harm than good. Because one, it perpetuates weight cycling, and it blames the victim, which is the dieter, when these methods fail. Diets fail. People get hooked and almost get a dopamine boost when they're on a diet. It feels good. They get a hit. They think they're going to lose weight. They think of all the rewards that's going to bring them and societal advantages. Inevitably, the weight comes back on when people can't keep up that restriction. I'm not talking about like 52% will fail. I'm talking in the 80s and 90% and beyond of how in the long term diets fail and people gain more weight as a result. So our treatment is worse than the cause if this is true. And there's a stigma associated with it. Stigma causes inflammatory mediators in the body. It causes it's linked to negative health ramifications in many different areas, socioeconomically, as well as physically and emotionally and mentally. Not a good treatment. The dangers of trading social relationships for diet cults. Okay, so one of our treatments is, I hear experts saying, be careful of the friends you hang out with, make sure they eat like you. This concerns me. We know that heart disease is one of the #1 killers, and that one of the major causes of heart disease mortality is perceived isolation and not enough social support, which is protective of cardiovascular heart disease risk. So we're trading someone who might be able to give someone social support through a grief and is very emotionally available, but because they eat French fries, they can't be around that person because they don't eat like them. I think that is very dangerous. I think that we need to be very mindful of biochemical individuality, unique genetic variances, organ system vulnerabilities. We need to look at how the whole array of the person when we're making these claims about what diet is and isn't right for somebody. And we need to look at how they celebrate food and their ethnic background with food. So I've said a lot. I might get some some feedback here that people agree, disagree, that's fine. I want to just open up the conversation because I think there's a lot of tortured people out there. And I think the more that we can look at what can we add to our diets that is nourishing and nurturing and give us the nutrition that we need to fuel our lives and our passions versus what's evil and bad and what can we cut out so that we can lose weight and stay healthy longer with less friends. I don't think the second is what anybody wants or is even intending. I just think it's kind of shifted that way, unfortunately, through nobody's fault, just good intentions and maybe by the diet culture industry for profit motives. I know for me personally, when I learned about health at every size, which is promoting healthy behaviors without the promise of weight loss, but really doing these healthy behaviors as a means to obtain your purpose and live a better, more vibrant life. I had a weight loss practice and I couldn't do that ethically anymore. And that does drive down profit because people want to lose weight. There's this promise, there's this whole societal image. There's a rise in teenagers really having disordered eating and especially teenage boys not being seen because of these messages of we need to look a certain way, be a certain way. And I just don't feel that we can do that anymore. There's enough stress on this generation, on our generation. The last thing we need to do is punish ourselves. The best thing we can do is nurture ourselves and find what works for us and use the knowledge of these incredible health experts who know all the biochemistry of the healing power of foods and implement what works into us into our lives for better, healthy, happier lives. We have to start at the level of the mind and look at what our goals and values are. And also respect that some people might not have the same health values as we do. And that's okay. And we can still be friends with them and get the social support we need from them and give it back and just love on up on them if they're our friends, our true friends. So that is my message for today. I know it's kind of intense. I hope that I can get some feedback and I hope that you guys will really start to think about this, even share it, spread the word. It's not easy. We are up against a lot right now and a lot of messaging. So I just acknowledge your courage and celebrate your strength. And I hope that you will check out my other resources because I do have resources on how to empower your life with health without focusing on weight loss and obsessing over food. And I also have a ton of other resources on my website that you can check out, some for free, some classes. Just, I want to help. I'm here. So let me know in the comments how I can and what more you'd like to see. Going to cover more on eating disorder, disordered eating, food addiction, all of that as well. So make sure you subscribe, follow, like, so that you get notice when a new video and new articles pop up. Thanks so much. Take good, gentle care and nourish yourself well, okay? See you soon.